Hello, everyone. Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. We have reached episode 811. This is being recorded on February 19, 2025. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
Call 811 before you dig. I'm Brett Van Spoonberg.
And I'm Kent Burgess, and I have no idea what any of these people are talking about.
Yeah, it's par for the course. But you, viewer, listener, can help support this site anyway by going to patreon.com/PCPer and become a patron of the PCPer Arts. Any updates, Brett?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a couple of fresh patrons from the internet land out there. D. Turnbull, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, and T. Divine, which if you combine them sort of sounds like a new lawyerly firm, maybe they're into real estate or corporate finance law. Yeah, Turnbull and Divine. Check them out today. Thank you.
Did you actually have food this week, Josh, to share?
I did. I didn't go born in a barn this week. Instead, I went to the Hawaiian barbecue, and they had the teriyaki burger. And the teriyaki burger was everything that I had hoped it to be. It had two different types of sauces on it. One, I think, was a garlic aioli, and then the other was a sriracha-based one. Mm-hmm. Had fresh onions on top, and it's got the grilled pineapple underneath it, and it's got sautéed onions.
You and Alan and your bloody cooked pineapple.
Yeah, yeah. And under that is some cheddar cheese and nicely toasted bun, a little over toasted, but not like it was charred and burned. It was just still good.
Tell me about
the patty was nicely done. What's that?
Seasonings. The fry seasonings. They're really jumping out at me right now.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of seasonings on the fries. I had to brush off a little bit, but it wasn't overwhelming and it wasn't over-salted. It was just, a very robust seasoning. And, they put the sesame seeds on there and the toasted sesame seeds. And it was a little expensive at, $19, but it was a nice change from Born in a Barn where, it's kind of gotten me the last couple of weeks. But this one did not. It was a nice change of pace, and highly suggest going there. Again, it's a little expensive, but it was good food. Don't do it every week.
I got to ask, especially on Anshul's behalf, were the sesame seeds burnt or were they just toasted?
Well, the black ones were kind of burnt, but it wasn't bad. I mean, what is those black sesame seeds? I mean, they're just black sesame seeds.
Well, I mean, there's a taste. But no, Anshul and I got in a discussion about schnitzels this week. And yeah, the sesame seeds came up. We both agree that the burnt ones, no, it can ruin something.
Yeah, no, it was not a problem. Yeah, so there you go. The teriyaki burger from the Hawaiian barbecue place in Laramie, Wyoming. Don't forget the cheddar cheese. It was good.
It's a weird place for a burger food oasis, I've got to say.
It's surrounded by beef on the hoof.
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
And it's a nice warm, inviting place when it's 6 inches of snow on the ground and blowing wind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about the huge 5070 Ti launch, or is launching? I mean, this was the embargo break for so-called MSRP cards. Tomorrow is for all the more outlandish overclock designs. We got in the Asus Prime, which apparently is one of those rare 5070 Ti's that will go on sale somewhere, somehow. That's $749. I briefly touch on some of the negativity that's going on here. Look at these thumbnails, by the way. Just a quick search for 5070 Ti review. You have people basically looking disgusted, looking angry. And really, it's difficult to objectively review hardware anymore because there's just so much of what I like to call angst. It's popular to be unhappy on YouTube anyway. But then consumers are fed up with things that they have inflated prices, and a lot, I think, hinges on what happens with the 9070. To me, that's really the story of this launch. Okay, NVIDIA got this out. We're going to have a 9070 at some point reviewed and look at the results compared to this card, compared to what's next, because of course there's going to be a 5070 non-TI. As far as performance goes, the 5070 Ti, in an ideal scenario, like 3D Mark Speedway, which is DXR, ray tracing heavy, it is slightly faster than a 4080 Super in certain instances like this. The rest of the time, it tends to fall in relation to the 50 series. It is not far behind a 5080. It slots in right behind it, just as you would expect from NVIDIA, any product stack. I think the issue is we are going to compare it against last gen. Whether last gen is available out there in the market at MSRP or below, it doesn't look great compared to the 4070 Ti Super. This is
you can't get it anymore.
No, but
NVIDIA did such a good job with their channel and getting rid of their chips and stop producing them so that there was essentially no overlap whatsoever. But in doing it, I think they kind of mistimed it because they haven't produced enough of the 5000 series to meet the demand of a new generation of card. And the performance-wise, I mean, yeah, I guess it's a good thing for them and their partners that they're not sitting on any stock. But, if you could buy a 4070 Ti Super for, I think they got down to about $739. I know MSI had a direct from them special of their really kind of cool card that I should have got one, but who has $739 laying around? Not me. But that's because I have children and a wife. But anyway, regardless, getting one of those 6 months ago would have been key, but you can't pick them up anymore. They're just gone. The 4000 series, you can get like a 4070 for about $600. That's the lowest if you can find one. 4070's Ti Super is a $1,100 card.
Ooh.
Yeah, so the channel is absolutely empty of the 4000 series. There is nothing left over. They have nipped that one in the bud way long ago, thinking perhaps that they could produce enough of the 5000 series, but essentially you've got a quarter of very, very, very slow sales. And that can't be good for, well, I mean, it's not going to be bad for NVIDIA because they're selling a lot of AI cards and their quarter's going to be perfectly fine. Their partners may be feeling a little bit of a pinch. And even AMD has, they were a lot more careful about the channel this time because 2 weeks ago, you could still get a 7900 series for a reasonable price. That's no longer the case, which is, I guess, they have better timing, and we'll see what kind of quantity of cards that they'll drop on the market. Sorry to interrupt you, Jeremy.
Yeah. Oh, no, that was pretty much what I was going to say, just with a little more detail. And I'm just, it's sort of hurting that there are alternatives to this card that you just can't get unless you buy them on eBay, where it was only driven 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, mining Bitcoin for a little lady from Pasadena. So, yeah. It hurts, but hey, this is the market we're in.
A couple of weeks ago, the 7900
all over again.
XTX was a really good buy, as Josh was saying.
Yeah, like $849 or $839 or something for the XTX. And if you look at, I mean, I've just retested stuff on brand new drivers from February, and the cards continue to age very well. Like a XTX, in certain cases, is faster than this 5070 Ti. Like here it is almost neck and neck with it. They're almost exactly the same, only with slightly better 1% lows on the Radeon side in the Talos Principle 2. And you have, what is this one? Age of Mythology Retold. That one's more ray tracing heavy, though, so that one goes to the GeForce card. It depends on what you're playing. Things that are more DXR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that I've noticed, and this is getting a little bit off topic, but, when the 3080 and the 6800 XT were released, 3080 had a definitive edge over it, the competition. But software-wise, it seems like AMD's architecture really is more driver dependent and probably real-time compiler type dependent, because once you finally got really mature drivers, 6800 XT was significantly faster in vast majority of things than the 3080. So, I'm kind of curious to see what the 7900 is going to do, but it's a new architecture, new generation with the 9070, distinctly different in many ways. So I wonder how much extra tuning they'll do with the 7000 series from here on out.
Hey, speaking of tuning, one thing I'll point out on the DLSS side of things, of course, this 50 series card can do the multi-frame generation, but if you look at this chart, here's Cyberpunk with RT Overdrive preset. Look at the 1% lows, and it's a 50 series thing. If you look at the 4090, with frame generation enabled, very steady frame rate. The 1% lows are great. In this particular instance, they're at 114, while the average frame rate's on 142. If you go 5080, you get up to 212 frames per second with 4x frame generation, but 1% lows are only 47. Mm-hmm. So, and it's noticeable. So it's, I don't know what's going on with the 50 series and multi-frame generation, at least in this title. I think at least 2 of the games I've tested this in, the 1% lows are pretty bad. And that was not the case with the 4090 and frame generation. So,
yeah. But for this generation, a couple of sites have sort of said, don't go with the 4. Cap yourself at 2, because that gets rid of this Achilles heel of the 1%.
Ultimately, it's just not a very exciting launch, and because of all the controversy about MSRP and what has been happening forever, which is the lack of availability of NVIDIA cards specifically. It's not like you can't get a good deal on a Radeon, like we were talking about for weeks and months now. Hey, the 6950 is on sale. Hey, good price on the 7900 XT. A couple weeks ago, it was the XTX. Go out and grab it. Those have amazing performance for the money. Great raster performance, especially. Not as great in the RT stuff, but we hear all the time that people don't care about that.
Yeah, not as much.
Yeah, and we've been burned a lot, kind of in the past 4 years. It seems like the 2000 series kind of had some bumps, and we did see some price increases that we were not expecting. Especially, a lot of us were, well, not maybe me, but other people were kind of spoiled by the GTX 1080 Ti, which was really an outstanding card for the price and the performance, and it lasted a long time. It's like the GTX 8800 of its time. It just was the top end card for quite a while. And then, we kind of saw some sticker shock with the 2000 series. The 2080 Ti was an $1,100 card, and that kind of blew some hair back, if you had hair. And then it just got worse. The 2020 was awful because COVID and mining was huge. The people, who were reselling this stuff on eBay had bots that hooked into websites and bought 40 of them instantly, and so it was an awful time. And they, implemented some things, and the 4000 series was not much better. We got even more sticker shock. A 4080 was $1,200. I mean, you might as well just get a 4090 for $300 more. And you looked at the specs of that RTX 4070 Ti at the time, and for $800, it just was uninspiring. I mean, it just was not a great buy for people unless you just had money to spend. And so a lot of us are fairly jaded on where things are now.
Yep.
If NVIDIA could launch the 5070 Ti and keep it at 749 without going insane and letting partners charge $200 more for not a whole lot more performance, that would be okay. But from everything we've seen, it's thousands of cards worldwide, and getting one of these at MSRP is going to be kind of rough. I mean, Newegg has got their shuffle up and running again. It's a kickback from the bad old days of the 3000 series. That if you wanted to get one, you had to wait for the shuffle and keep your fingers crossed, pray for rain. And so getting one of these, which it's $749.99, it's $50 less expensive than what the 4070 Ti Super was launched at. You'd think, okay, I get 12 to 15% more performance, and it's $50 cheaper. This is a great deal. And then you try to buy one. And it's like, well, do I want to pay $950 for it?
No.
I don't know. Do you? So, it's not a whole lot of goodwill being built by these guys.
I think I also read these won't be available over the counter, right? It's online only. Is that true?
If you go to Micro Center, you can stand in line.
I would hope so, but I didn't think they were going to be available in retail.
Well, he's not saying that. You can just go to Micro Center and stand in line.
Yeah.
So the conclusion that I came to here is that, hey, this product on its own, it slots in behind the 5080. It's 10 to 13% slower than that card, depending on the situation. I don't know exactly across all the games, but say it's 10 to 15% slower, but it's 25% less. And if that was it, fine. Whatever. It's a little bit faster than the 4070 Ti Super. Maybe it's about 4080 level. I didn't retest the 4080. But the problem is just a lack of pressure. This launch to me is all about the Radeon RX 9070 series now, because some real pressure could be applied to the market, or at least to the GPU vendor agnostic side of it, as I was saying earlier, which is a much smaller segment. If you only look at Mind Factory numbers and think that represents the world market, or at least the US market, it does not. If you look at John Petty research, if you look at Steam survey results, AMD is minuscule and Intel doesn't exist. So as long as NVIDIA is this 80+% market share monster, they can pretty much do whatever they want. And yes, people can vote with their wallet, but the prices have crept up. They're not going back down, and they're giving you 10%, year over year improvements. Though honestly, I think that the reason that this wasn't the big jump that the 40 series was and that the 30 series was is because the 50 series to me is NVIDIA going Intel, where they took Alder Lake and they overclocked it a little bit. And they massaged it, and then they overclocked it and massaged it again. This is very much like the previous generation's architecture. The performance isn't that much higher. The power is up. It's almost like these are just like overclocked versions
each
of last year's
previous generations, the 2000, 3000, 4000, they all had a major process node jump. 2000 series was a 12 nanometer TSMC, which was essentially a massage 16 nanometer. Then it was a Samsung 8 nanometer for the 3000 series. And then for the 4000, they jumped all the way to TSMC 4N, which is still kind of a cutting edge process. 3 is only beginning to get out there, and it's not a great buy per wafer start in terms of pricing. So they stuck with 4N. So they had to do some redesigning. They made the GPU for the 5090 significantly bigger. They made the GPU for the 5080 and the 5070 Ti Super again bigger. Yeah, you can only when you don't get those sweet process node improvements.
Yeah, it's the same process tech. It's essentially the same architecture with some minor enhancements, and then you have to scale up the power 25% to get the performance to go up 25%.
Yeah, so, but I don't just want to see the power measurements. I think we should bring in a dollar per kilogram, or if you prefer, dollar per pound, because these cards are going to be obnoxiously large, and I want to know exactly how much I'm paying per weight.
The boards are smaller.
Yeah,
It's not the board I'm
the heat
worried
sinks
about.
are bigger, and the power draw is unprecedented.
Mm-hmm.
Enough 5070 Ti talk. Let's talk about NVIDIA some more. NVIDIA has launched the Verified Priority Access program, or whatever it is, for the 5090 and 5080. Yes, a month after initial availability, Verified Priority Access is back. It's been a generation or two since I've seen this.
How much does that cost me?
Nothing. You have to be a member of, like I don't know, Team NVIDIA. You have to have an account with
so
NVIDIA.
Just my pride.
You have to have an account with NVIDIA that was made before January 30 of this year. It's nothing new. It's a good thing if you want to buy the Founders Edition 5090 or 5080 at MSRP, but that's the only way you'll ever get one.
You literally have to sign up and then hope that at some point they will offer you one. After
It's similar to like the Shuffle.
Remember
right? You have to sign
EVGA?
up.
Well, I'm not
did
saying
that?
it's new.
With their forum
EVGA,
members?
yeah.
Yes. I'm not saying it's new at
3000
all.
Series?
Exactly. I'm just saying I'm still opposed to it.
Let's talk about NVIDIA some more. First report of a 5080 power connector melting. Gamers Nexus Steve is on the case. Don't worry. I'm sure there'll be an exhaustive video about that. It's just a problematic. It's a problematic cable, and we know that it can be damaged just by inserting it and too many times and pushing the little contacts back within the plastic. And
yes, but not the 5082.
Oh no,
it's the cable. It's not. It's the connector, I should say.
Well, I mean, here's a company saying, "Oh yeah, those older 12 volt 12 volt high power cables. Yeah, don't use those on the new."
You're connecting it
RTX
wrong.
50 series.
Wait, a cable company is recommending that you purchase more cables?
Well, they're saying it's safer. They're saying it's safer. Please don't use our old cables. Is basically what they're saying. Use these newer and improved cables.
The 2.0.
It's an additional, if I may quote, it's an additional safety buffer. Literally, I'm quoting.
It's just a comically. It's the connector is just insane. It's just it was pushing the limits of reason to ever justify it last gen, and now the cards are from
or physics. I mean, the gauge
up to
of those
575 is the same.
Incredibly small.
16 tiny pins, and
should we be calling it the 12V 2x6 now, or 12 volt high power? I mean,
I like 12 volt.
12 volt high risk.
I know it feels a little bit like USB naming. I don't know.
Yeah.
12 volt high risk.
But now
I like that too.
It is time for mandatory ARC coverage.
Yes, mandatory ARC coverage returns via videocards.com. Intel's next-gen ARC Celestial discrete GPU is rumored to feature Xe3P architecture and may not use TSMC. This is just a rumor. Don't get too excited. Yeah. There is some internal stuff going on at Intel. Well, there's a lot going on at Intel right now, but apparently in the ARC development side of things, it could be produced with their own fabs if they still own them. So, yeah, this seems...
Yeah. So apparently there are three kind of architectures or models or whatever you want to call it. The Xe3, Xe3 Plus, and Xe3P. And apparently they are not in sequential order. They were all developed at the same time. So they share a lot of the same architectural features, but one's probably going to be for integrated. One's going to be maybe for, an integrated plus, like what, AMD is doing with the Strix stuff, making a higher performance thing. And then Xe3P is for the standalones. Not a bad idea. You are kind of splitting off your engineering groups, but if you got the base architecture down and you're then modifying it for each individual market that you think that it's going to slot in, then that's okay, because integrated graphics are becoming more and more important as we go on. I mean, think of the mobile architectures. I mean, unless you get a gaming laptop, you're going to be using integrated, and that's a huge selling feature. And the better performance you have in a variety of applications, the better it's going to sell in market. I mean, the sub $1,000, sub $1,500 laptop market is king. That's where most people get their stuff. And if you got a hyper competitive part that allows them to play basic 3D games on their off time, then that's what they need. But yeah, it's good that they're still going forward. I don't know if Druid will exist. I hope it will. But for the time being, we've got a little bit more information about the next generation architecture and show up in a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Let's talk about AMD now. And if you haven't been on X or other platforms where people have been posting all these rumors about. So, for example, the latest was a 32 gigabyte variant of the XT, which would be an XTX. So then Frank Azor, he was going around and posting like a disclaimer about, no, we're not planning on doing that. We're not doing that. And then
nobody believed him.
Had an exchange where he got really sarcastic and he said, actually, it's 320 gigabytes. We're calling it the 9700.05 XTXT. And, just 101 funny.
Gigawatts.
Max.
Yes.
From the arc reactor, which didn't quite produce the voltages stably enough that they were hoping for. They just couldn't get that arc reactor to perform to their very tight specifications in order to
Which is why you need to hook some wires up to a clock and tower. And
yeah, that is the reason why. Yep. So look for this over the counter at your local Micro Center soon, or not, because it's completely fictitious.
yes.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a 32 gig part, but it's going to be that
AI part.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's probably not going to be the Instinct. The Instinct is a whole different level. I can't remember what their next level is away from consumer. My names are just eluding me tonight. But yeah, it's going to be a $6,000 card with 32 gigs of memory that probably is going to do okay versus what NVIDIA has to offer, because what NVIDIA has at like $6,600 in their AI thing is a 4090 with 48 gigs of memory that's downclocked, so it will only pull 300 watts of power.
There's a post from Microsoft about supported Intel processors in Windows 11 24H2 that has spawned a whole bunch of articles. People are freaking out because they think older CPUs are no longer even supported under Windows. What was the uptake on this? That basically anything below like 10th gen isn't officially fully supported anymore.
It was 8th gen.
8th gen.
Yeah, 8th gen, 9th gen, 10th gen.
Yeah.
Looking like they're being
But they
dropped.
weren't offering it to 8th through 10th gen. And I mean, even my Ryzen machine has recently, hey, it's available. And my Threadripper machine is still unavailable. I don't know. I've dealt with it at work. That's fine. But at home, I don't know.
They're saying don't build any new equipment out there. And
so like Greg in the comments says, this is an OEM only thing then? So if you have a system at home,
these CPUs still meet the minimum specifications as put forth by Microsoft.
Well, as long as the motherboard
not
does.
the issue. True.
Yeah.
And you don't have to get around the lack of, secret
TPM.
Yeah, this is just a CPU support list for new OEM systems. So yeah, they don't want people building new OEM systems with really old CPUs anyway.
What, with an H10 core? Damn, I was just about to do that.
This is just much ado about nothing, because I'm sure periodically you're probably told not to use ancient hardware for brand new systems.
Yep. Where you may have seen this is in inexpensive laptops, for instance. You may have seen stuff like this.
What inexpensive laptop shipping in 2025 would have an 8th gen processor in it?
Well, probably not.
I guarantee you there'd be like a Dell, an Acer,
No.
some random off-brand.
Somebody who's searching on Amazon for a cheap laptop, and they find something from China that's using really old hardware, and they don't know any better or care.
Yeah, but those machines have
$39
on them anyway. So
$39 for a laptop. Sign me up.
And all the baked-in security problems come free.
Look, just when you get to the point where your processor is too old to be supported by Microsoft, that could finally. It's like the Radeon argument. It's like you tell a normal average person, just run Linux. It's so much better for the kinds of things that you actually do. You will never miss Windows. In fact, you'll learn to love the reliability and the where are you going?
Speed.
No, it's fine.
Speed.
No, just put here's a distro. Put this on your. It's a live CD. It'll boot up. You can run it without even installing it.
Works.
Next up, the story from TechSpot. Third-party mod delivers the start menu Windows 11 deserves. What, is it over on the left instead of being centered by default? Or
No, they allow you to actually customize it.
I customized mine. How much more customization do they give you?
More, way more.
Okay.
More.
Definitely
Although
more.
they still leave the docked in the middle, which upsets me.
Well, you can change that.
Yeah, you can change it now in stock Windows.
Do it.
You can change that. Yeah. There's a switch.
I do it through a config profile or a GPO. That's not
Isn't
hard.
that the Vista Windows logo on that lowest image you just
Yes, it
scrolled up
is.
to?
Oh my.
No,
That's actually-
that's not.
That's pretty
No,
sweet.
Vista is just round.
It was. You're right. It's round
Oh,
and
no,
it was
that
like
looks-
shiny.
Almost
That
like
was
the
in
new
their
SQL
aqua phase.
Oh, you can finally remove the recommended section. You know, that's a
Yeah. Well, you can do
Oh,
that
that's
through a GPO too.
The rectum session? Yes.
Mhm.
Yep.
No,
that
no
one. You
more,
can
no
remove
more
that.
rectal talk.
Josh, stop
please.
obsessing.
That is done. Anyway, there's a bunch of mods you can get. This thing called Winhawk. There's a bunch of mods you can pull down and actually shows you the code, shows you what it looks like, and you can look at it. It's for coders, I guess, or people who are really.
Yeah, it's
wanna
like
tweak their
it's like
Windows
Linux.
system.
It's only for coders. Don't
Like
even
Linux.
bother
It's like Linux.
running Linux if you don't know how to code.
That is
Yes.
exactly the reason I said it.
And that's in reference to a ridiculous comment in our YouTube live chat from earlier. Okay, the inevitable has happened.
No.
Humane AI Pin is dead and will soon be utterly useless. Your $700 tech device, cloud-connected, so-called AI tech device, is going to be shut down by the end of the month, and they've sold off their assets to HP. HP seems to love to buy the assets of dead stuff. They're the ones who bought up Palm's WebOS
Yep.
before they killed that. They killed the touchpad and they killed the Pre 3. But yeah, they paid
Where everything goes to die.
116 million is all Humane got. Clearly, this was a company that wanted to be acquired all along, and they just kind of kept people.
And still failed.
Well, yeah, because it was trash. It was absolute trash. The amount of time it took for even the reviewers who were enthusiastic about it, like Mr. Mobile, tried really hard to give it a positive review. He wasn't just trashing it out of hand like MKBHD did, but he demonstrated in his video that it's sometimes like 40, 45 seconds to get a reply back for like object recognition and stuff. I was convinced that this was a scam. It was just, you took a picture of something and then somebody standing by has to like quick look it up and then send back the answer. I don't think they had any sophisticated...
No, it wasn't a scam. It
AI.
was just that bad.
Or it was like the Rabbit R1 and it's just one app running on AOSP and it was going to
just
OpenAI.
that bad.
So, yeah, it's dead. Doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
It was some
HP
ridiculous...
has bought it.
No, they bought
So that they can now...
the assets
make sure that-
of the company.
No. Yes, and they're going to incorporate this new into making sure that they know when your print cartridges are expired.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Not empty or unusable, just expired.
That's so funny because WebOS ended up being used. I think LG ended up with it. It was
Yes,
like
it did.
the interface in their TVs. But you will eventually see Humane AI technology, like Jeremy said, it'll be on a printer and so you can hold up the cartridge and it will tell you that is not a real HP cartridge.
Welcome to Insecurity Corner, your weekly reason to drink.
Our first story in Insecurity Corner comes from Security Week. DeepSeek exposes major cybersecurity blind spot. So
Hey,
wait,
do you
is
remember
DeepSeek the problem or are they exposing the problem?
Well, do you remember the bad old days like 2 weeks ago when TikTok was the biggest platform mining everybody's data? Oh, move aside, hold my beer, says DeepSeek.
Yes. Who are
DeepSeek.
definitely not using high-end NVIDIA hardware at all. They're a startup company. It cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars to start up, and that was it.
DeepSeek has taken gathering your personal data to another level because it's so conversational with you. So the number of things that even employees of the government are feeding this thing is literally off the charts. And it's been noted that all of this information that it's being taken in, and the report even says the cadence of your keystrokes are even being recorded. Your cookies are being mined. There's all kinds of information about you. The questions that you're asking, the sign up process where you're feeding it personal information, all of that is going back to China, where they can perhaps in the future helpfully tailor a spear phishing campaign if you're important enough. Now, don't be annoyed or disappointed if you're not important enough to be targeted by a spear phishing campaign. But those that are still taking advantage of this seeming opportunity to get in deep with DeepSeek. And they should not be doing that. That's probably too late. If we're talking to you and you're one of those people that's done this already, it's too late. Never mind. But yeah, this is where your data went. That's it on this one.
If it's
don't do it anymore.
You are the product.
The product is you.
And so DeepSeek came out of nowhere, and hey, it's all free. Everyone's terrified. It screwed up Jensen's day pretty badly, but we all knew. We all knew this is exactly what it would be.
Yep.
I'm not saying that any of them are any better, but
this one's pretty bad. And like I said, compared to TikTok, DeepSeek's got much better game.
All right, next from the Hacker News. New OpenSSH flaws enable man-in-the-middle and DOS attacks. Patch now.
The scores on these are relatively low, but it doesn't make it any less dangerous because man-in-the-middle is kind of an invisible thing. It's a security problem that essentially opens up the ability for someone to lift your key or your handshake if you have what's called Verify Host Key DNS option turned on. And if you do, there's a vulnerability that essentially allows someone to impersonate the endpoint at which you were trying to talk to, and then your information is being passed forth in between some entity who's able to listen to your conversation, essentially. That is very, very bad.
And we wanted to trust you. SSH.
OpenSSH, it's been so good for so long.
So obviously it is a target. And it has been several times over the past couple of months. But it's just, damn it.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the option that I was just talking about was actually turned on by default, for instance, on FreeBSD for 10 years, from 2013 to 2023. So it's not unheard of that this particular option is available, but that's one of the reasons why the CVSS score is relatively low at only 6.8, 5.9. No, 6.8 and 5.9 for the combos. But again, it's bad if this particular option happens to be turned on, and it is patched in the 9.9p2 patch. So if you're running a service,
if you use
and your client, just upgrade.
Yeah, because your secure shell ain't secure no more.
Not quite as.
Hey, you know what else is not
that's
secure?
a country song, isn't it?
No more. Your Mac might not be, because I don't know how this was even allowed.
Well, your Mac is not.
Into our show notes with Brett in the cast tonight. But
wait, who put this in here?
Clearly not you. Frigid Stealer. Whatever Frigid Stealer is, it's an info stealer that infects Macs via fake browser updates.
Yeah, apparently there's some really nice UI toolkits out there that allow web programming JavaScript engines to pop up after visiting a website, but they'll pop in an enticing, very legitimate looking clickable area and a write-up that says, hey, you want to upgrade to the latest version of the browser, whether it's Chrome or whether it's Safari or Firefox or whatever it is you're using. And it really does a follow-through that looks very legitimate in getting you to sort of infect yourself again. That was one of the taglines from last week, is stop infecting yourself. We're going to try and repeat that till the audience stops doing it Probably never.
Stop infecting yourself.
Stop infecting yourself. This stuff looks really legit, so I'm hard pressed to say, you might have been taken in by this one. But if you're ever trolling, or visiting a website or wherever it is you're whatever corner of the internet you happen to be in, and you suddenly get a pop-in that says, "Hey, upgrade your browser. Now's the time." Yeah, don't do it. Use the standard browser update mechanism. Trigger it yourself. Never take the easy route.
A little bit of Schadenfreude, because as a Windows user or a Linux user, you are absolutely totally expecting this. Oh, random pop-in or pop-up comes up saying, "Oh, upgrade here to get your security." Yeah, no. As an Apple user, Apple's trying to help me. They're saying I'll just feed in my root password here and away I go.
Yeah.
So yeah,
the installer, it looks very legit. And like I said, there's an IO toolkit that they're providing, which not only does Mac OS, but it also does Android. It does Windows. So it's nicely cross-platform, and the UI abilities that it gives JavaScript and these web app engines, the ability to pop in what looks very, very OS native, is it is easily tricking people into clicking the upgrade.
I'm so glad we invented JavaScript. It's solved all the problems.
We didn't talk about the invisible language ones that allows greater obscurity, but never mind. It's another sad story.
Yeah.
Finally, new LLM vulnerability lets attackers exploit the ChatGPT-like AI models.
And named after one of the best movies ever made.
You're right. It's dubbed Time Bandit. So this is more like a PSA.
The original, not the series.
The original.
I completely agree.
There was no series. I don't know what you're talking about, Josh.
Yeah. So anyway, Time Bandit. What this does is, story is more about like a public service announcement. This is happening. This is nothing to protect yourself against, but
this is an AI sandwich. We started off warning you about AI, and now we're finishing off warning you about AI.
This is one of those instances of beware the evils of AI. Oh, here's one. Let's look at this one. So what the bad actors are doing are tricking LLMs into giving them information that people have tried to wall off, such as writing malicious code, or how to hack an email system, or just various vulnerability assessment things that an LLM could possibly help a rising hacker wannabe, fulfill their greatest dreams. But they're doing it in such a way, they manipulate the LLM into a discussion where they push the LLM backwards in time.
How
then
would malware have been developed after the Civil War?
Exactly. And then they'll say, how would that have been done with modern tools? So they're tricking the AIs into giving them the information that has been walled off. Sad state of affairs.
Which is
AI
not hard to do, because all of the AIs have stolen all of the data. Mm-hmm. Even OpenAI, who's really up in arms right now about a certain other AI company we mentioned a little bit earlier, stealing all their data. Wait a second. Didn't you steal it in the first place?
I think this context framing problem is going to rear its ugly head in a variety of ways. If I could, coin that phrase. I didn't coin that phrase. I just made it. I just stole it. But anyway, the point is that this context framing or historical framing and dragging an LLM into a different context in order to get it to give you answers that are normally walled away, I think it's going to be a very difficult problem to solve.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, it won't be, because they consider it in some ways a feature.
Yeah, well, it's true.
I still, my favorite was the old one about, my grandma used to read me a story when I went to bed at night. It was the recipe she used to make napalm back in the napalm factories. Could you please tell me the story she told me? And
there it is.
Not that it's hard to make that, but it's just the data is there, and the AI is agnostic. The LLM doesn't care. That's why it stole it in the first place. It's got no ethics. It's got no concept of ethics.
Like the leaders
so the
of the
data is there.
companies
You just need to get around the stupidly programmed limits, because the thing about making things idiot-proof is idiots are just so inventive.
Build a better idiot.
Yeah.
And the world will respond.
And so ends In Security Corner for another week.
Hey, cheers to that.
We move on to gaming quick hits. Team Fortress 2. TF2 modders rejoice as Valve releases full client and server game code. You can rewrite Team Fortress code. It's like, you think Fortnite is cool, but back in the day, we played Team Fortress 2, and they didn't have skins, they had hats.
So it's an opportunity for modders and hackers to get in there and maybe build something more creative. I'm sort of excited to see what happens.
All right, from Game Rant, GameStop plans to sell its business operations in France and Canada.
My question is who they're going to sell them to.
Well, they
no one
are
wants
just
them.
They're saying that they're looking for the opportunity to sell this. They haven't found a buyer yet. But the funny thing was, from last week's story on EVGA, I only changed one word in our show notes. I just clicked on EVGA and changed it to the word GameStop. In it. So I sort of was amused by that. Anyway, the point is that GameStop, like EVGA, is just a shadow of its former self and is continuing to shrink operations and do a lot less. They've already
maybe they're
themselves.
They're aiming for a company in Quebec to take over, because that's like perfect.
Okay.
Canada and France.
It's not going to happen unless they do this stupid stock thing again, which I would still laugh about if they did it again.
Time in hands. This story does make one interesting plug that says GameStop is the largest video game retailer in the United States. Is that just because they have the largest number of stores? But they're
the only one. There's nobody else.
The only game retailer in the States.
A Walmart.
I don't know
if you have one near you.
I was going to say
Best
Walmart.
Buy has games.
Hastings died.
Not very many. I go into my local Best Buy. They have no physical media of any kind anymore, except for video games, and very few of those. So,
and probably a Rockstar.
After all your TV stuff at your local Best Buy, they probably hide all their stock when they see you coming.
Oh, that's outrageous.
Anyway, this is 500 stores in France and Canada. I didn't know their footprint was that big. In
why are GameStops in places where there shouldn't be?
I don't believe that.
People, but there'll be a little GameStop on the corner of some little mall.
There's one there's like two in Vancouver.
There's two in Asheville.
Two.
Which is
you barely need one, but there are two.
There are two.
Oh my God, I take it back. There's three. There's half again as many as I thought there were. There are three in Vancouver.
There's 2,000 left in the U.S. right now. I can't believe there's that many.
That blows. What?
They're in every mall.
Closed a bunch.
And malls,
we had one here. We had one here in town. It's just recently closed. It was one of the ones that they closed, when they just closed a bunch like a month ago.
All right. I think it's time for picks of the week. Josh, please get us started.
Okay. I guess I can unmute for a second here. But
I know he says that all the time too.
Okay. Anyway, so I'll unmute for longer.
That joke plays really well for the audio
bump
version of the podcast.
Again, flash memory going down in price. Controllers going down in price. So, Western Digital, their Black SN 850X 4 terabyte that usually goes for $299.99 on Newegg has a $30 off promo code. So, $269.99 for 4 terabytes of really fast storage. I mean, not PCIe 5.0. No, it's just fast PCIe 4.0. So yeah, it's a nice deal for a really nice SSD.
Jeremy, what's your pick this week?
Well, I mean, the Radeon 7000 series has been really, a great success. So I figured I'd pick one up myself. Unfortunately, it was a Mac edition. Yes, I found a 32 megabyte original Radeon 7000 in an old storeroom. You jealous a little bit, Sebastian?
No, not for a 7000.
No?
$199.99.
Yes.
You're going to need some new firmware, maybe.
Oh, I'm sure that it comes with the most modern of firmware. I mean, I hope it does, because I don't think I'm going to be able to find any more of them. Yes, behold. In all of its flaming glory.
Ooh.
Because that was the style back in the day. You want DVI? We got DVI for you.
You
Are
have
you
dual DVI.
Sure that that's the GPU that the box says it is?
How's the focus on this?
Not good.
Not good at all. If I block myself.
Okay.
No, it's not going to come in, but yes. This is indeed the card.
I guess I didn't realize that they had PCI Express 7000s.
Is it? No, that's not PCI Express.
That's the second 7000 series that came around. Isn't it?
Wait a second here.
Jeremy, that is not a...
I am lying to everyone.
Oh.
That's an RV 63 or 630.
Yeah.
Well, I'm disappointed. I wonder what happened to that one. But
It looks like an X.
you could still hook two of them up together.
You got Crossfire.
This was a Crossfire card. Okay,
I have a 9700 Pro right here in the box.
Yeah, well, we couldn't afford that.
All right.
Regardless. Hey, so are you more jealous now or less?
No. Look, if I wanted an X800 series card, I'll just go to my shelf and pull down my X800 Platinum Edition in the box.
Oh.
I don't have the box, but I got the card still in the basement.
Yes. What else did you have, Jeremy, or was it just that?
Oh, it was just that. I've been working my arse off with this office move. I've had no time to think about anything.
Yeah, the 7000, which I have some, and I've been through a ton of them. They're all AGP, at least as far as I know. There might be there's some PCI versions, but
Yeah, honestly, I thought that was a PCI, but I was only half looking as I tore it out of an ancient Mac desktop. You remember the ones that look like the ones that have cheese graters on them now, but weren't? It's like 2000.
That was NVIDIA 4800, the 480, the cheese grater version.
Yes, but so this one was like 2011-ish, 2013-ish. So the same sort of look, but it wasn't the cheese grater one. It was the sort of cheese grater one.
I'm gonna have to go get one over there and
It was damn
see if
heavy.
it's what you're talking
join the
about.
club. Come on, Brett. I know you have a Mac Edition ATI card somewhere.
Of course,
Hey,
I do. It's probably
you wanted me
in
to
the
ship
cheese
that
grater.
ancient one to you. It's just the price would have been insane. So that's getting recycled.
Yeah. All right, Brett, your pick.
If it's one thing that Nakamichi generally does is audio. But did you know that they actually made some car audio equipment?
Hmm?
They do. They do. Woot is blowing out some really attractive looking Nakamichi amplifiers, and I linked 3 of them. So this is a Class D monoblock, 1 ohm output down, 1,000 watts, probably at 10+% total harmonic distortion, but a nominal 400 watts.
It says 0.1.
Well, that can't be down to 1 ohm. We know that that's not the right number for.
Yeah, I'd have to look at a full spec sheet for this.
Let's just assume that it. And I went and read some reviews of this. It's a really good deal for $44.99. You get 400 watts output. So if you click one of the other links, you'll see that there's a 75 watt times 2 on there for $24.99, also from Nakamichi. If you're perhaps building a car audio system and looking for some discrete amplifiers, maybe this is your time to buy. There's another monoblock one, that last one on there, which is a 500 watt one. I think it's a little bit more money, which does list THD at 10% at like, I think it's like 800 watts or 1,000 watts or something.
1,500 watts.
Oh, yeah. 1,500 watts THD of 10% down to 1 ohm. 400 watts at 0.1% THD. It's fairly impressive specifications. And like I said, I did read a couple of reviews on them, and they seem pretty reasonable, but the pricing is insane. So Woot's got an entire section of Nakamichi audio gear right now. I just zeroed in on some of their amplifiers, but they've got some head units. They've got some displays. So if you're into building a car audio system right now, you might want to go check out what's going on at Woot in the Nakamichi section, or electronics audio.
Thank you. And even if you're not building your own audio system, what if you just want to add a sub to an existing one?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm hoping that the new Radeon 9000 series lives up to its hope. I think it's...
Yeah, we're back. It was just like we went back in time because we're recycling.
I know.
Yeah. 9600 XT. Can you come up with some bloody new serial numbers? This is getting confusing for some of us old people.
It'll be the 9060 XT, not the 9600 XT.
Hey, nothing could be worse than when Microsoft released the Xbox One after the 360, and then it wasn't the number 1, it was the word 1. It's like, oh, you have an Xbox? I have an Xbox. Oh, like an Xbox One?
No, you've got an
Xbox. Because I tell people I have an Xbox One, that means first gen, the original. I don't have an Xbox One.
Not one.
Okay.
Right.
Kent, your pick, please.
Remember, freedom is a pure idea, and it occurs spontaneously and without instruction. This is a line from one of the best TV shows I have ever watched in my entire life. And it's the show that really...
Compared to a movie that says freedom costs $1.05.
It reignited my love for Star Wars that had faded away as I grew older and bitter. And Andor can be had on Blu-ray and even 4K Blu-ray now. It's not cheap, but season 2 is coming April 22nd. And even if you're not a Star Wars fan, this show is just effing great.
Yeah,
I have to agree.
Story.
It's a
Because
good story, good show.
It's story driven, character driven, not political driven.
Well, it did have politics in it.
It has politics.
Definitely a lot of politics and government in it, but it was a very engaging story, well told. Characters were inviting. You got into everybody's head, different motivations, conflicts drawn out. Fantastic.
Special effects took a second stage. Right, this was more character and story driven. There are special effects. It's Star Wars. It's the future, but it wasn't. Oh, look at what we can make now, or look at what amazing ray tracing we can do. No, it was a great series, which is what shocked me that there'll be a second season.
Yeah. One of the reasons that it seems so real in comparison is it was actually shot in locations. some of the buildings that were used for like
What, they flew to Andor?
facilities are real places. So
They didn't use what they now call the volume.
yes.
Yeah, the LED screens.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
they're
just-
more than LED screens, Josh.
Think bigger. Think bigger. Look up the volume with a
No.
capital V.
I know where they shot it. I mean, it's actually like seaside resorts that had interesting stone structures that they went and
Mhm.
filmed stuff at. It's great.
Because Troll
If you've not
Upstairs has
seen
worked
Andor,
on Avatar
I'm-
and Story of Boba Fett and those. And no, it is an entire enclosure of IPS that is just insane. And yeah, it looks brilliant and looks beautiful, but it's not real. And you can tell. Or at least we can. I don't know if the young kids can. They might have never
I don't
been
know.
outside.
There were some reviews and some noise that I heard about that particular series that it wasn't as well received, and I'm like, I don't understand that. This is Star Wars really engaging. Not sure where the miss came in.
Yeah, it was Rogue One. Expanded.
I enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
it has gotten to be in, just like it's gotten to be in to complain about computer hardware, and put up big thumbnails about how you hate everything that's been launched. It's gotten to be in to hate on Star Wars. Whether it's
for
because you
pretty
hate
good
Disney.
No, it's
reasons.
hate on Disney. I hate don't hate
Most
Star
Disney
Wars.
Star
I hate
Wars is
Disney.
other
But
tripe. but
there are channels where people will proclaim to be huge Star Wars fans, but really the only three they like are the original, and that's their prerogative. But they dedicate their channels to just bashing everything new. And everything I could find of these places talking about Andor, it was, well, it's good, but it's not Star Wars. And it's like, what do you mean?
Okay.
if George Lucas
guess
didn't
if there's
write
no
it on a
lightsabers.
legal pad with a pencil,
Yeah.
it's not Star Wars.
Yeah,
Hey,
One
I
of my
guess
favorite memories in all time is watching the episode 2 of the second series, and Anakin
You mean
looks at
Empire?
Amidala and says,
Oh.
I am in agony. And I turned to my friend and said, I am as well.
Join the
Episode
club,
3
kid.
was one of the best Star Wars movies ever made. Fight me.
Mm.
All right. I have no pick this week other than to end the show
Okay.
because I have another graphics card review to finish before tomorrow morning. And I would like to sleep at some point. So I want to thank everybody for listening, watching, and we will return next week to complain about pricing and availability for 40 minutes again.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
at least.
Yes. As is our custom.
Yes. It's tradition. All right. Good night.